Plus, former National Security Advisor John Bolton has been indicted and is now the third critic of President Trump to face criminal charges in recent weeks. Retribution is here. Bolton, for his part, was indicted yesterday by a federal grand jury in Maryland. Just moments ago, he arrived at a federal courthouse in Maryland, suburban D.C., where he is expected to surrender to authorities and make an initial court appearance. That's according to two senior federal law enforcement sources. You can see him entering the courthouse there just a few moments ago. Bolton faces 18 counts related to the transmission and retention of national defense information. Prosecutors say that Bolton stored diary-like entries about his time in government that included classified information and then shared more than 1,000 pages of that information with two family members who did not have security clearances. NBC News has identified them as his wife and daughter. Bolton is denying any wrongdoing, comparing the Trump administration to Joseph Stalin's secret police, who said, "You show me the man, and I'll show you the crime." Joining us now to talk about this and other things, New York Times investigative reporter Michael Schmidt, co-host of The Weeknight on MSNBC, Simone Sanders-Townsend, and MSNBC legal correspondent and former litigator Lisa Rubin. Great panel. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Lisa, starting with you. First, just give us a sense as to what will happen in that courthouse today. John Bolton just entered. But also, there has been and talk us about the actual nature of these charges. There seems to be, per experts we've been speaking to, more of a there than perhaps what we've seen facing Letitia James and James Comey.
Well, let's talk about what's going to happen this morning. We can report, MSNBC can report, that John Bolton is inside the courthouse this morning. He is inside the U.S. Marshal's suite with his lawyer, Abby Lowell, and some of the prosecutors who were present yesterday for the return of the indictment. We expect that he will be processed, which involves fingerprinting and the taking of a picture solely for internal uses. And then he will wait to make an initial appearance before Judge Theodore Chuang of the District of Maryland. We don't know exactly what time that will happen. We don't expect him, however, to be arraigned this morning. That's the process through which somebody enters a plea of guilty or not guilty. That is not expected to happen this morning. In terms of whether or not there's a there, Simone and I were talking about this offset. And this is one of those situations, John, that I would say two things can be true. To, quote our colleague, Huma Abedin, it's a both-and situation. This can be retributive and meritorious at the same time. I was struck in reading this indictment and how many parallels there are to the Trump Mar-a-Lago case. Yeah. Obviously, John Bolton facing 18 counts of both retaining and distributing national defense information. But one of the things that comes across clearly, that prosecutors clearly want people to read into it, is how many times John Bolton had an opportunity to come clean and return information. That started with a settlement that he reached with the Department of Justice over the publication of his book in early 2021 that obligated him to return any residual classified or national defense information in his possession. That continued in the summer when his team reported to the FBI that he had been hacked through his AOL account by a foreign entity identified as somebody close to the Iranian Republic. And in that situation, they were also not, according to prosecutors, fully forthcoming about the ways in which John Bolton used that AOL account to communicate classified and national defense information to his wife and daughter as he was sending them diary entries, perhaps later to be used in his memoir. There are also places where they say, based on his interviews, that John Bolton fully understood the rules of the road. And they quote sort of prolifically from cable news interviews that he gave in 16 and 17, criticizing Hillary Clinton, and later in 2025 talking about Pete Hegseth and the Signal chat. What's notably missing from that, though, are all the interviews John Bolton did, including with our colleague Ken Delanian in 2022, where he lambasted President Trump for his own handling of classified materials and the cavalierness with which President Trump was sharing classified or otherwise sensitive information with folks.
Yeah.